Are you ready? Are you ready? I saw you were with them last night. I saw you were with them last night. Don't burn the bridge, burn the paper. Don't burn the bridge, burn the paper. Yeah, it's a little Billy D coming to you live. Yes, live from Round Lake Heights, Illinois. This is your Insurance Corner. My name is Bill Miksch. I'm president of WDMA Financial Group in Grays Lake, Illinois. And for the next hour, I and Sean are going to take you on a wild excursion into the world of insurance. Yes, it is a wild excursion. I can make this completely dry, completely, utterly boring, almost snooze-like type of subject matter and bring you to life, cause your heart to beat, get you to think, maybe even tap your feet while you're sitting in your chair listening to my diatribes. But for the moment, coming to you live from the bunkers somewhere hidden deep in the bowels of Ohio. He has been missing in action in 2 weeks because our phone system was broken. Sean Hauser.
Hello, Bill. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm finer than a frog's hair on a turtle's belly, Sean.
You seem fired up about something, so must be a good day for Bill.
Well, every day is a Monday in my office right now, but every day, this industry that I'm in, Sean, and maybe you can say the same thing, there is never a dull moment in my office. There are things that I do that are completely mind-numbing, and to the point where you just want to take a nap. But there are other things which really get your attention and cause your blood pressure to rise, cause your angst to rise, and just start shooting bullets at whoever gets in your way until you get to say, until somebody says, "Uncle, I'll do what you want." So,
I think, Bill, you're the only person that has days like that. Of course, I'm being facetious. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an example, Sean. Typing, one of the things that we have to do a lot of is typing, right? When I was in high school, I wanted to be a doctor. True story. So I took a typing class, and this is back in the day, folks, when it was on a typewriter, not the keyboard. And so because I wanted to be a doctor, my brain was not engaged in learning how to type. Because I'm like, I'm going to be a doctor. Why do I need to learn how to type? Yada, yada, yada. So I cheated. I looked at my fingers in the class I took freshman. It was the very first class I took freshman year in high school. And so I looked at my fingers. Fast forward to today, I can type and I can spell, but I can't type and spell. And so if you hear me on the keyboard, if I'm on the phone with you, you're going to hear my fingers flying. What you don't see is the sea of red that is on the screen after I look up from whatever I just typed. One of the words that I constantly screw up, and it's because, and I don't understand how I'm doing this, but when I type the word "we" in the first word of a sentence, both the W and the E end up being capitalized every time. Now,
I do that all the time.
Yeah. Now, that either means I'm typing too fast and I didn't let go of the cap, the cap key, or I kept the cap key on and I was capitalized, which is the other problem I have, is I don't always pay attention to the capitalization key. And so I start typing, not thinking to look, and then I look up, and the first two sentences are capitalized. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So, some people get the shorts in the knot, as you probably know, if you type something in its caps, because to them you're yelling at them. So I either go back and I retyped what I did in lowercase, or at the end of the sentence I'll just say sorry for the caps.
Yeah, I've seen people put in emails that please excuse errors in grammar and punctuation. Something about because I was trying to respond to you quickly, or something like that, right? Yeah, I do that all the time, or I'll say, we are working on the report that they, and I'll type, we are working on the report they, instead of typing that day, and it's like, and especially like if it's in an email, it'll catch it because it'll like delete second word. But in all of these chat functions that everybody has, and where we use this thing called Slack, you fire that out there, and then you're like, bing, immediately I'm an idiot.
Yeah, right.
They're just looking at like, where did we get this guy? What reform school did we hire him from? So,
well, you fogged a mirror, Sean. That's why I hired you.
That's true. I had a heartbeat and a pen.
That's exactly right. And you can do math. So,
pretty good.
Well, welcome back, Sean. Hopefully our phones are fixed. I'm sure Chris and you were trying like the dickens to get whatever the problems were fixed, and hopefully we can make it through the show without the white noise in my ear.
Well, as we always used to say in auto shop class, the carburetor wouldn't carb, the generator wouldn't gen, and the pistons, well, they just wouldn't either. And the device failed, so we're back on the air.
It's all good. It's all good. So, couple things that I want to kind of regroup with before we get into the subject at hand tonight, which is Medicare. We're doing a series, folks, on Medicare. So the last several shows have been literally going through the book Medicare and You. And then every now and then we'll come across a topic like the IRMA tax, for example, or what happens if you use all 150 of your Medicare Part A days, which happened last week. We had a discussion about that. And so tonight, it's going to be about the most popular Medicare plans that are sold across the country. And then if there's time, we're going to get into some hyperbole, for lack of a better word, or some discussion on the difference, not the differences, but why people pick Medigap or Medicare Supplements as opposed to Medicare Advantage plans. I came across a little blurb that say, why do doctors don't like Medicare Advantage? Why do people, pick one plan over the other, etc.? And then lastly, if there's more time, I may have a message. I'm trying to do a better job, Sean, in gauging how much time I have before I do the message. I'm coming to the conclusion that we need to, whatever I'm doing, I need to stop about 5 minutes to the top of the hour so there's enough time and I don't bleed into the next hour, which I have done religiously since we started this show back in, what was it, 2020? Yeah, we're coming up on 4 years, my friend. So,
yeah.
So a couple things I want to just bring up to speed. If you recall, Sean, we were working on a claim problem that a client of mine had at a hospital in Tennessee. His spouse, family member, went to the emergency room. I think they may have been visiting family or on vacation or something. In any case, they ended up in the emergency room. The bill was $30,000. He's got coverage. He said that he gave the insurance card to the people in the emergency room. Of course, the emergency room people deny it. And so 2 weeks after the claim was incurred, he got a bill. And he got the bill said on the margins cash only. Or cash, no insurance, cash only. And the net result was $1,500. So they discounted the bill from $30,000 down to $1,500. And that happened 2 weeks after the claim. So I think the claim was November 23rd, 2023. His first invoice he received, I believe it was on December 10th of 2023. So just 2-3 weeks, and he's got a bill, and he paid it. And he thought he was done. Somewhere between the 10th of December and January 23rd, Blue Cross, the insurance carrier, received the invoice. I don't know where it came from. Certainly it didn't come from us. Either the hospital found the bill, the ID card, or possibly the client submitted the bill after the cash arrangement to the insurance carrier, which, if that happened, folks, that's a big no-no. If you've done a cash deal, you cannot double dip and send that claim back to the insurance company. But that's what happened in this case. So on January 23rd, he gets a separate invoice. What do you think that invoice looked like, Sean? Do you recall?
Well, I'm thinking that they probably billed him a different amount because he submitted it to insurance, right?
Oh, yeah. You want to take a guess what that amount changed to? Because it changed.
It went up, invariably.
Oh, yeah. It doubled.
Did they balance bill him? Oh.
Mm-hmm. No, pursuant to the contract with the insurance carrier, which was followed to the T. The insurance carrier did nothing wrong. They followed the letter of the contract. The final bill wasn't $1,500; it was $3,900. And needless to say, my client is not a happy camper about this. It's not fair. And on the face of it, I agree. I agreed that it wasn't fair. So I agreed to go ahead and try to fight with the hospital to try to get some dispensation, some relief, something, based on the billing practice that took place. So initially I start making phone calls with a letter signed by the patient, not by the subscriber, but by the patient, saying I can speak on her behalf. I got to maybe halfway to first base, and then I got pushback, well, this letter isn't compliant. Okay. So I got a little bit further, talked to one of the underlings. Now, remember what I said was the bill was generated on the 23rd of November. On December 10th, the first bill was generated. On January 23rd, the second bill was generated, right? So I talked to somebody in their billing department. I don't know what part of the food chain this woman was in. Her name was Paula. And right away, she pushes back and said, this claim was billed properly. And I said, well, I'm not disputing what Blue Cross did. I'm disputing the fact that you issued two separate bills. And it was as if I was talking to the wall, Sean. This is the part that bothers me, is that they didn't understand that there was two separate bills generated. One was cash only and the other was insurance related. And my argument was, you already billed him. For why, I don't know. Why you didn't wait for his card, I don't know. But in the context of that particular conversation, at one point she says to me, we tried for, quote, months, unquote, to try to get his ID card. Well, I knew this woman had no idea of the history of the claim because the finality of that claim was January 23rd, literally 2 months after it was incurred. So this idea that they were trying for months to get the ID card was a fallacy, was false, and to me was a bold-faced lie to try to get me off the phone. Well, she don't know me very well. So I said, well, who made the decision to, not allow the client to redo this claim somehow? Well, the CFO. Oh, good. Let me talk to him. So eventually I got to him, and my first go-around, he wouldn't talk to me. He said, we've talked to our compliance department, our risk management department, and we need a power of attorney from you and a notarized signature saying that it's okay. I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't care about what happened to her. That's not my issue. I'm just talking about the bill. But these guys are so woundly tight with HIPAA that anything that can push off something on, and some people are going to get their shorts ruffled in this, and I understand on some level, because HIPAA is important, don't misunderstand, but we're talking about an invoice, not somebody's medical care. I didn't give a rip. I still to this day don't know what she was there for. and it doesn't matter. My issue was the bill was $30,000. You discounted it to $1,500, and then miraculously the insurance card showed up, and it was rebilled to $3,900. That part was the part that was my argument. So went back to the client, got the notarization letter, got the POA, the power of attorney, sent it up to him, set up a meeting, and this meeting finally took place on Monday of this week. So this is the finality. This is the 7th game of the World Series. We're going to try to get some level of attention. And right out the gate, he's like, this claim was processed properly. His name was Ryan. I won't say his last name, but he's the chief financial officer of the hospital. And he was kind of a hard nose about it. I understood where he was coming from. He's got to protect his bottom line, but I'm trying to protect my client's best interest. And I said, Ryan, I'll stipulate for the record here that there's no disputing that the claim that was processed accurately. I have no dispute of that. And he kept going back to that. Like on the third time, he said, I feel like I'm talking in circles. I said, I don't care about what was done by Blue Cross. You guys had a billing practice that said, we billed you for cash, and then once the card showed up, we went to go get the discount, and the bill doubled. I said, the billing practice is what I'm protesting about. And finally, when he heard me on the 4th time, he then acknowledges me, and he says, I respect the fact that you're trying to renegotiate the bill, but I have to protect the hospital, and the bill was processed correctly. I said, well, it may have been processed correctly, and again, I'm not arguing how it was done in terms of the way Blue Cross did it. I said, I'm protesting the way you guys billed this. And then he said, well, I think this conversation's over. And then I got my shorts in a knot. I wasn't angry. Was angry, but I held my temper. And I said, listen, one of your employees, I got to tell you, lied to me, because she said, quote, we were searching, we were looking for his ID card for, quote, months, unquote. And that's, honestly, I said, Ryan, that's how I got to you. Because, first of all, I knew she lied. That was a way to just push me to the curb. And secondly, she didn't know what she was talking about. She had no common sense of the history. And it said, you know what, I'll look into that. I don't know the circumstances. I said, well, that's what I've been trying to tell you. And if you read the letter, that's what we said. You billed it twice. He said, well, I'm not gonna acquiesce. So the end result was, for the first time in my 33 years, Sean, I did not get a provider to back off even a little bit. Not even a little. Now, this hospital generates $1.3 billion revenue a year. That extra $1,900 or whatever the number was that was being billed doesn't even show up on the radar screen. And very few people, admittedly, don't have an advocate like me who's willing to go, 10 miles down the road to try to, fight a particular claim. Most people will just be irritated at the insurance company. Their plan stinks. The insurance company stinks, blah, blah, blah. But this is the first time that I couldn't get a provider to back off. So we made a good effort. I told the client, and when he called me back, I said, call me. I've got, I've got news for you. And the call didn't go very well. And he calls me on the phone. He says, so what did they tell you? Go pound sand? I said, basically. Anyway, so
they billed them. They agreed to $3,300, and then they came back and said, no, it's $3,900. So
yeah, they actually agreed to $1,500. The cash price was $1,500, $1,500, and after the discount was done, the plan went from $1,500 to $3,900. That's what was ultimately owed. So we had to pay the extra, whatever that amounts to, $2,400 or something like that. Maybe it was $1,900, so maybe the ultimate bill was $3,400. But in either case, he had to pay more. Now, it was his deductible, and I did point out, I said, if you guys had processed the claim correctly, taken his ID card and sent it up, you and I would not be having this conversation right now. The bill would have been fine. He would have paid it. It is what it is. But it didn't matter that they made a mistake. That as far as they were concerned, it got rectified when the card, made its round trip to the insurance carrier. So, and the medical system, Sean, is got a lot of problems. There's no two ways about it. I like to say sometimes that if I knew how to fix it, if I knew how to fix this, I'd have my own. I would have my own island on the Caribbean somewhere. To fix this means everybody in the food chain, from the patient to the provider to all the middlemen to big pharma to the insurance companies, everybody in the food chain would have to say, what am I willing to give up, not what do I want? And if nobody's willing to compromise on those fronts, this thing is going to continue to roll down the train track until such time as the government says, this is a train wreck, we're going to take over. And those bigger entities, the insurance carriers and big pharma in particular, will stand up and rise up and go, you're not going to kill the goose that lays our golden egg. So it's a nasty situation. But everybody's going to have to come to the table and say, what do I want to give up? Now, let me just add this. I've been doing this since 1989, 1990. There is this concept called medical inflation that has been going on for as long as I've been in the business. Medical inflation runs anywhere between 8 and 15% depending on the year and the carrier you're talking to. And whether you have whether you're self-insured or you're fully insured, it's irrelevant. That's the medical inflation. So unless somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to say something that may ruffle some more feathers. I think there's collusion in the system. And let me explain myself. And I'm going to talk specifically about hospitals, but you could probably throw any industry into this food chain. So, Sean, you're the hospital administrator in charge of all the contracts, and I'm the insurance company. And we know each other casually. We may be friendly with each other, but we're not friends. So we have our, love chats and how's your family and this and that, and then we get down to brass tacks. And so I come to you and I say, Sean, I'm prepared to, our company, based on the numbers we've looked at, we're prepared to give you $150 million this year. And you look at me cross-eyed and go, are you out of your mind? The nurses and the electricians are going to unionize on me, which is going to double their income and double the benefit levels if we don't have enough money to keep the unions out of here. Everybody wants bigger benefits, more salaries. We constantly have more regulation coming down our throats from these idiots in Washington. So we need 220. And so you and I settle at 190. I'm just the rep. I'm not the insurance carrier, so the money is not mine. It's the premium payers, ultimately. I go back to the underwriters and the actuaries, and I'm like, Sean's hospital wants 190. Redo the numbers. So unless somebody with more education than me, and I'm not saying I'm the sharpest tack in the world, but how is it possible with all the EPOs, the PPOs, the HMOs, all of these middle, these things that are out there that have tried to, quote-unquote, control medical costs? How is it possible that medical inflation is still running between 8 and 15% every year? Every now and then you get an anomaly and you get a rate pass, maybe a rate decrease once every 10 years because you got lucky, or maybe it's a single-digit increase because you change plans. But how is it possible that the inflation rate is 8 to 15% when we've got all these little pieces out there to squelch the cost of health care? How is that possible? I want somebody to be able to explain that to me that can actually give me facts and not opinions. So,
yeah, it's a mess, Bill. I remember when, who was president then? It might have been, I don't think it was Obama. I think it might have been Bush. And I remember they had this big thing on C-SPAN, and they were going to have this healthcare summit, right? And everybody was going to talk about the rising costs of healthcare. The thing that struck me about that meeting, watching that on TV, was there was not a flip chart in the room. There was not a whiteboard. There was nobody writing anything down, and it was everybody just posturing for the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever been in a meeting where you didn't walk in with a notebook or when you didn't walk in with a slide deck or anything like that? And I think the problem is that you're right. There's probably financial gain to be had, right? So you don't, if you have a lot of insurance companies in your constituency, you don't want to kill the golden calf. And at the same time, you have to answer to the people, but they don't throw in as much money into the super PACs that keep you in office. So honestly, I think there's things to happen, but has it gotten to the problem where, they always talk about banks being too big to fail? Has healthcare and this problem gotten too big to succeed?
And at the same time,
you would have to lock up every MIT, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, or the guys from every other college too, in a room and give them 10 years to figure this out. And I tell you, it would be a beast.
I'll take the educated people out of the room. I'll take Johnny Lunchbucket from East St. Louis, and Martha Young Whippersnapper from Arkansas, or what's it? Texarkana, Arkansas. I'll take the average person who has to manage a budget every year, rather than the so-called mathematical know-it-alls that can do math in their, can do spreadsheets in their head without thinking about it. I don't want those people in the room. I want people in the room who have to figure out budgets, because frankly, while the hospitals have budgets, they can massage things, and they can couch their systems as charitable organizations. And that's how they get around the for-profit thing. Even though most of the hospitals have grown, the size of Texas in some cases, that they've grown from community hospitals where they were a rectangular building to this behemoth monstrosity. I'm sure the hospital in Tennessee that generates $1.3 billion a year, just that hospital alone, didn't start out that way. I'm sure of it. And everybody's got budgets, and everybody wants a raise, and everybody wants better benefits and this and that. Everybody wants cheaper this, that, and the other thing. I get that. At the same time, the people that are getting crushed the most are the people that can't afford it. And, when you add on Obamacare to this whole thing, which has quadrupled the cost of premiums, particularly for individuals and small groups under 50 employees, and caused the average out-of-pocket to go from $2,500 to next year going to, I think I read, $9,400 is the maximum out-of-pocket, next year's out-of-pocket max. $9,400, and that's deemed affordable according to the, quote, Affordable Care Act. It's intellectually offensive to me to call that the Affordable Care Act. And part of it's because the people ultimately are making the decisions, they don't have any skin in the game. It's not their money. They are beholden to their stockholders or the people that are around them. And yes, they have to pay all these people to do certain things. And like I said, if I could figure this out, I'd have my own island on the Caribbean somewhere. But in order to fix it, everybody has to come in the room and say, what are they willing to give up, not what do they want. That's the only way that this gets fixed.
And the reason why this out of pocket maximum is the money needs to come from somewhere, right? So they get the subsidy up front to pay the premium, which is sometimes a subsidy, sometimes it's a loan. We've had those discussions, but then it used to be, the pot of people that use insurance, right, or the pot of people that buy insurance. There's a lot of people who don't get into things like Obamacare because there's no reason for them to do it unless they know they're going to have a lot of bills. And so, I had a professor that said, when you have chronic health issues, you buy insurance because you know you're going to use it, right? So you sign up it through your employer, get Obamacare, what have you, right? Because you know you're going to use it. Well, there used to be a requirement that everybody had to have this, but that got taken away.
Yep.
Okay, so now only the people that there are people that are going to buy it because they're fiscally concerned about a catastrophic bill, but there are also people that are perfectly healthy that when the plan was originally set up would have had to pay in or else they'd have to pay a penalty, but then we took that restriction away.
Right, and the penalty,
so what's
though,
left is that.
And the penalty, though, Sean, was $95. So it wasn't enough.
Yeah, it wasn't that.
Yeah, it wasn't punitive.
That much, but the thing is then you've got this pot of users, right? And they're going to be expensive because they're going to go to the doctor, they're going to get prescriptions, they're going to get that, and you don't have all of these healthy people that buy insurance and never use it. Because I'm sure there's years where you paid into an insurance plan, you never took a benefit because, thank God, everybody was healthy.
Yep.
I've had years like that.
Yep.
And I felt like, well, why am I buying health insurance? Because I might break my leg. But, that's where the insurance company could offset or the insurance companies of the world could offset some of this massive premium, but all the sickies are paying in. That's what Dr. Kaufman used to call them. All the sickies will pay in, but none of the healthy people are kicking in, so they've got to get more money from the sickies to cover the cost of the pool.
Yeah, and it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of the benefits are going to be used by 20% of the people. So we're going to have to take a break. I got this red light beeping in my eyeballs here, Sean. I'm going to get sick from the red eye. So I will have to use my health insurance. So with that in mind, Sean and I will be right back. This was a great discussion where I went a little long on this, but I was kind of passionate about this whole godforsaken concept. But with all that said, we're going to move on to Medicare when we come back. My name is Bill Miksch. I'm president of WDMA Financial Group. That's Sean Hauser. We'll be right back after these short messages.